Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Tuesday night, August 8th, 2023. It's about 10:35 California time here in the evening, and latest activity of 1.7 up into the Alaska area. This movement following some larger scale activity down into the Tonga region. Of course, we did have that 5.9 EMSC. Looks like they're holding steady there with a 6. I believe that's a 6.2 here. EMSC USGS reporting this as a 5.9. So take your pick. We did see a little bit of adjustment further downstream into the Tonga Trench here, following that almost 6-pointer with a 4.6, well below 500 kilometers deep here. Not a whole lot of adjustment within our watch zone. That's the Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands area. A look at the EMSC model globe here as well shows that it's absent of earthquake activity. So we'll continue to watch that. Not too often does it stay quiet for extended periods of time. So this will be an area to watch pretty closely here in the coming hours. Could happen tonight or here in a couple days. Did see a little bit of adjustment here along the, looks like south of the Philippines with this earthquake right here from earlier this evening as well. 5.3, 58 kilometers deep. That earthquake coming in following the movement there in Tonga. And of course, the northwestward pressure movement momentum tends to take place in this area. It all gets pretty much crunched up here against the Filipino plate and the areas around the Java Trench. Let's see what we got here off the coast of Indonesia area. Some earthquake activity from this morning and also some activity afternoon time period for a 4.5 there in the Andaman Sea area. So we'll continue to watch these regions here. Definitely keep an eye, though, on this seismic gap zone right here. Anything going on across New Zealand? Looks like a couple of 3s. Let's double check that here real quick, and then we'll get into the rest of the map. 4.0, 8 hours ago. That's going to be one of the 3-pointers there on the globe, but it looks like US or the GeoNet reporting it as a 4.0. And those are the felt reports. I'm sure there's some smaller quake activity out here taking place. I just go ahead and look at the graph here to get a good indicator if there's any other movement taking place. Here's that 4-pointer about 10 hours ago. Since then, it doesn't look like there's too much earthquake activity here across the New Zealand area. So that's continuing to be quiet in that zone. Across the Big Island, Hawaii, remember this earthquake here earlier, about the same time when that 6-pointer struck down in the Tonga area. This earthquake is an odd one. 34 kilometers deep, 91 or 3.4 magnitude, 91 kilometers deep here. It's still underneath an automatic status review, so I think this will probably be removed once someone looks at it. Why they haven't covered it, I don't know. Maybe they're short-staffed over here across the USGS on the Big Island. I'm not for sure, but it's an odd one out there. There's a little bit of activity here across the Kilauea Volcano region. Mostly smaller microquakes, no major changes to take note of here, though. One earthquake up at the top of Mauna Loa, 40 kilometers deep, well underneath this region for a 2.9 earthquake. Up into the Alaska area, mostly smaller microquakes. Looks somewhat quiet up there tonight. Let's look at the EMSC model here for this area. Again, on the globe, I only have roughly about 2.3, 2.2 and above. For magnitudes across the world. Occasionally they'll throw in a smaller quake, but for the most part the threshold there should be 2.2 and above. So a lot of this here is all microquake activity, aside from those 2 quakes that are above 2.5, but pretty small amount of activity occurring up there. Into the Washington region here, watching this little swarm of activity from this morning. Doesn't look like we've seen any further activity throughout the afternoon or evening time period. Now this sits just off the Seattle fault, and a lot of people tend to think about the Cascadia subduction zone when they think of earthquake activity around Seattle. Well, this one here I think would do more damage to the Seattle area, the greater Seattle area, than, say, for example, a 9.0 off the coast of Cascadia, or off the coast here, Washington and Oregon. due to proximity. Right, got a 9-pointer here, a couple hundred miles away, but you have a fault system here very capable of producing mid-7s right underneath the Seattle area, and it's been fairly quiet. We really haven't seen too much activity there on that Seattle fault that runs underneath the area. This is the last 30 days of activity, and as you can see, a little bit to the west, and a little bit here, a little cluster to the east of this fault system, but continue to keep an eye on that for some movement. One little small earthquake outside of Mount St. Helens, not looking at any major swarm going on there across the area. Also this earthquake here, southern end of the Cascadia, 3.1, 35 kilometers deep. That's down there around the Trimmer area, although slightly up the trench region at that depth. And let's check the Trimmer here real quick and see what we got for the Cascadia. 40 epicenters. That's quite the drop from yesterday. I think we had a couple hundred out here, but it's been an up and down pattern. No significant amount of tremor has taken place since about October of last year, when we've seen our last significant event. Notice a spike up here on the graph. We've had a couple small minor events earlier this year, but the last big one was back there in October of last year. We'll see if that continues here in the future. Let's see, across Lake Tahoe area, a little swarm of movement outside of Carson City area. Nothing big, couple small microquakes out there, eastern crest of the eastern edge of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Bay Area looks fairly quiet, not seeing anything major going on there. And Southern California, with this activity down off the Imperial Fault, I was expecting to see this kick up today. In Southern California, we've seen a handful of smaller quakes, but it doesn't look like anything above 2.5 in that area. Minimal movement at best across the region right now. In the last hour, we got a 1.9 near the Loma Linda area, and also over here, a 1.2. Looks like that's in the San Fernando Valley area, right underneath this region here. Not for sure which fault system that struck on. Maybe the Northridge Hills fault. All I know is California down here in this area is riddled, kind of like a spider web of fault systems there across the Pacific Plate boundary. That's going to be this area right here that Los Angeles sits on. Of course, everything east of this plate boundary, the North American Plate. All right, what else? Yellowstone National Park, one little earthquake here. It looks like a quarry blast way up in the Montana region or Idaho, somewhere up there. Doesn't look like there's too much going on here at Yellowstone, but I do want to double check, as always. I don't want to skip anything. There is the... That kind of looks like that's the 6-pointer. That thing kind of... Yeah, the only thing I noticed about that earthquake that struck earlier today there in the Tonga region is the amount of the S wave that was picked up across various seismograph stations. When that thing blew through there, we've seen it show up on Southern California, Japan, New Zealand. The S waves are going to be a little wavy pattern. It won't be these, and it's not like that. This is just the normal, typical way that station's set up. But the S waves are, you'll see them, they're like drawn out and then they mellow out a little bit. But that earthquake down there, let me check that out again here. That's a couple thousand miles away here, that Tonga earthquake, 5.9, 58 kilometers deep. I think it was more of a stronger magnitude than that for it to show up this strong here across the Yellowstone area. Now look at the timestamp here. Okay, UTC time here is going to be right just before 1900 UTC time. And the UTC time over here is just double check here and make sure we got that. 1838 UTC time. So that would match that seismic signature that we're seeing showed up there across the Yellowstone National Park area. And I'm sure on other seismograph stations, but to me, that kind of looks like it may be 6.5 or above potentially to give that type of signature. Now, I'm not in control, obviously, of telling the USGS what to do, but I think that was a little bit larger. I mean, a 5.9 showing up like this across the park area. Let me check. Let's check Mount St. Helens station up here, see if that picked it up as well. Just checking a couple different seismographs up here around the area. And just to me, it looks stronger than what they're stating. It looks like a little bit of earthquake activity up there at Mount St. Helens as well, not being reported. And 3.9 near North Bend. That's going to be this activity up here, right, with that 3.9. There it is. That was 17 kilometers deep, but I'm trying to find the S wave there from that earthquake earlier today. It looks like it's missing some data right around the 1800 UTC time. It's offline, at least with that station. Let me check one more over here real quick. Don't want to spend too much time on it, but just the seismic, of course, the seismic signature to me when it came in there in the Tonga, and after looking at these graphs here following that earthquake, looks like it was larger than a 5.9, and thousands of miles away. It'd be a little different story, right, if that 5.9 occurred down here in Texas or somewhere in the Gulf Coast, but thousands of miles away, it rattled the earth kind of like a bell all across the Pacific plate. Just a very interesting earthquake. Not for sure what was so special about it, but it definitely looked like it was a little bit stronger. All right, let's move on here and see what's going on out here in Texas. I think we do know what's going on outside of the Pecos, Texas area. Real quick glance here at the satellite view. We'll zoom in here. A lot of earthquake activity out here across this, very close to the solar farm, I believe is what these are. But within the proximity, very close proximity of this solar farm, we have these wastewater disposal field facilities out here. You can kind of see those pumps and that pond that they use. I'm not for sure exactly if there's specific locations where they inject the wastewater into the mountains. I don't know the whole process, but there's definitely a lot of oil fields out here and these wastewater disposal ponds. And a lot of dirt roads out here leading to these mountains that maybe that's where they're just, I don't know what they're doing with it, but a lot of earthquake activity taking place out there within the last 24 hours. Quite a few 2s and some 3s taking place out there, about 7 to 9 kilometers deep below the surface. Not a whole lot else going on across the eastern portion of the country. We got one lonesome earthquake up here in Livermore, Maine. 2.5. Never been up here. Furthest east I've been, I remember back in, went to school out in Ohio for a little bit, but that's about it. Never really got to see this area of the country, or Maine. I think Maine would be really cool to see this in the spring and summertime. So that earthquake striking about 9.6 kilometers deep. Nothing major going on up there, just a little scattered earthquake activity. One earthquake off the coast here of Honduras. That's a 4.8 early this morning, about 1 o'clock or so. Now we do have a little bit of activity on the southern edge of the Caribbean plate. It's going to be this, technically this plate right here, in between two bully plates, North America and South America region. So things are a little on the uptick here across the region. 4.8 Venezuela area earlier this afternoon. It looks like maybe that stirred up a little further activity up here across the Puerto Rico Trench. Continue to watch that. Some movement also here. Looks like around the Dominican Republic area, a couple smaller quakes. Let's check out the earthquake 3D globe here. Middle America Trench is toning down slightly. Now there is looks like there's a little pancake activity going on here across the, well, is that going to be the Gulf of Fonseca area? Let's double check that and see. I need to zoom in there and see what's going on. Let's go here to the EMSC earthquake information. Go over here to the world map. I'm just kind of curious to see what's going on there. See if that swarm's kicking back up or not. Doesn't, well, remember all the activity here over the past, well, it's very minimal in the past week, but it's been the past 2 weeks we've seen quite a few earthquakes within this Gulf of Fonseca area. That has since calmed down, but it looks like we got a separate little swarm upstream here in the Middle America Trench, about 34 kilometers deep or so. We'll continue to watch that. I still think there's something brewing in this area. We didn't really see any action following all that movement. No volcanic activity here in the region, just a swarm of earthquake activity. And just kind of keeping an eye on that area. All right, let's see. A little earthquake activity in Pahala right now, 2.2. See if there's anything else going on here. South America, pretty quiet, looks like, according to the USGS. But I think the EMSC would beg to differ here. Quite a few 3s and maybe even some 4s out there up and down the Peru-Chile Trench, as you can see here on the Earthquake 3D globe. I know the South America region is not quiet. There's definitely some earthquake activity going on, but it seems as though, for whatever reason, USGS not adding that onto their map. But as you can see, definitely some activity stirring up out there. There's that deeper movement quake there into the Tonga Trench. The Kurokamachaka and the Japan Trench fairly quiet for now. Further across the area here, it looks like Turkey getting in on some aftershock movement. Quite a few quakes showing up there on the globe, but nothing here on the USGS map. Looks like maybe some 3s, even a 4 mixed in there across that area. The Atlantic Ocean, nothing really showing up here at all. Nothing on the USGS map as well. So just kind of keep an eye on things, folks. We'll report back on anything if any activity stirs up overnight. Over here around the Tanzania area, this earthquake activity, yeah, it looks like we had another earthquake here earlier this afternoon. 5.5 this morning, and then a 4.8 out here. Things kicking up a little bit. Of course, a rift zone out here. Looks like that may be part of the activity. All right, space weather activity here by solarham.net. You know, we're kind of expecting a G2 class storm, right? Well, that never really materialized. And even on the space weather site here, they had mentioned that the geomagnetic storm watch, this was from earlier, but today they were talking about two CMEs leaving the sun on August 5th. We're supposed to merge into a cannibal CME that delivers a glancing blow to Earth today that could kick up a G2 with a slight chance of an escalating G3 storm. Well, that didn't even kick up to a G1 storm. Nothing at all. I think it completely missed us. Completely. We didn't even get a glancing blow. So that was unfortunate. It looks like, you know, very slight aurora possibilities up there in Canada and Greenland, Iceland area, it looks like. But obviously it's daylight there for now. But yeah, no solar storm. And unfortunately, you know, these forecasts are almost as hard to predict, similar to the weather. So what do we have right now? Well, we've got an ongoing proton event stirring things up across the northern and the southern polar regions here. And I believe those are from the charged particles that were produced from a couple different flares, some strong flares here over the last couple days. One of them was the next flare, had a couple other M flares in there as well. A look at the UV filter array here. Still shows some flaring off on the western limb of the sun, but you know, that's long gone. Nothing's going to be popping up here, at least as far as the Earth-facing side of the sun from those sunspots, unless they make another journey around and see us here in a few days or a week or so. We are left with quite a few sunspots. Let's go ahead and see what's going on the Earth-facing side with the current magnetogram image here. Noticing a little active area here and a little growth within this with this Earth-facing sunspot, and also down here as well. So it looks like maybe these are starting to grow and get a little bit more steam, so to speak, in terms of, complexity. So we'll watch these couple sunspots here as they show a little bit of strengthening. Out here on the eastern limb of the sun, got a couple new members to welcome here. In a scattered area of, there's really nothing complex here, but looks like there's a couple different growths within that sunspot that we got to watch. It's currently not named, but keep an eye on that. Right now, 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at 55, X flare around 10% chance. Proton event in full swing currently, mostly affecting the upper polar regions, lower polar region as well, far as radio communications go. There's a little bit of info on it here. If you click on the global D-region absorption predictions, a DRAP map, and it kind of shows you the frequencies and whatnot that are affected or in blackout mode. Mostly shortwave radio, it looks like. 20 MHz and ham radio and stuff like that. Doesn't look like it's affected, but definitely very low frequency. And there's a whole information on it, what the effects of the proton events. Basically what happens when the Earth is bombarded by protons. All right, let's see. Let's go back here and check out. No major coronal holes are facing us, so we're not looking at any major CME or any major solar storms. Just kind of a bummer that that completely missed us. So back to the green. Back to a lot of green here on the board. Not a whole lot expected in the coming days. All right, let's see here. Go ahead and check out the Storm Prediction Center. This is the valid. Still looks like this is from today. Tomorrow, there on Wednesday, things are going to shift over here a little bit further to the east from today's activity, which was over here around the Colorado region with an enhanced risk for some severe weather with a very broad area of a 5% chance for tornado probability. I did see some earthquake tornado activity out there in eastern Colorado today. Quite a few storm chasers posting some videos and pictures. But yeah, tornado and wind threat across this area listed on the map. We'll cover that a little bit more in the morning update. But just a heads up. All right, folks, I am going to check the Gulf here real quick, see if we got any hurricanes that may be stirring up out there across the warm waters of the Gulf. Doesn't look like it. The Atlantic Ocean looks like there's a consistent high pressure ridging out there. It's not showing it here on this map. Well, there we go, just a little bit. Keeping everything at bay. I don't see anything rolling into the Gulf. It looks like some activity across the Pacific here. Looks like blown off of the Mexico area. I don't think that's going to pose any threat to land as it stirs off into the cooler waters of the Pacific. And that's just it for now. Not really seeing any major pattern changes. I know we're going to be cooking again here come August. I mean, we're already into August, right? The first week starting the second week here. Nice, and I can't really say nice and cool today. It was 92 degrees, so that's a lot better than 110, which we've seen here over the past month or so in Northern California. So we're under the influence of some cooler temperatures out here. This is tomorrow's forecast. Notice that cooler troughing and the jet stream bringing down some severe weather potential here across those areas. Keeping the heat at bay, but also brewing up some storms there as the two meet, the colder and the warmer air. A little bit of moisture coming into Southern California from that former tropical storm. Looks like going to keep things a little cooler out there in SoCal. And then look what comes knocking on the door here for the Pacific Northwest. That's a very strong high pressure system. That's going to be, looks like it's going to stick around for a few days. And then anything after that is subject to change here because, this far out, the 22nd of August, It's a ways out. Computer models can't 100% accurately predict what's going on, but kind of give us a good indicator, you know. I want to check out the North American area. This shows a broader view of also what's going on up above us in Canada and across the polar regions there. That plays a lot on what forms down here across the states and Canada and whatnot. And, you know, there's the cooler temperatures right now for the West Coast, and the storm's brewing up. As we look further, look at that massive low pressure system up here in the Gulf. In the Gulf of Alaska. I really wish that was parked right over here, but that's just not going to happen right now. There's that high pressure ridging building up off the coast of Pacific Northwest, and you know, it definitely shows some type of change going on as we head towards the end of summer. We're getting a lot of these lower pressures starting to pop up, but we'll just see how this plays out. I'm really not looking forward to an extended long summer. All right, folks, have a good one. Real quick glance here at the live seismograph stations. Again, everything looks calm for now. Not a whole lot of earthquake activity showing up on any of these live seismograph stations. They're scattered across the globe. We'll catch you guys back here tomorrow morning, Wednesday. Take care, folks. Have a wonderful night.